This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz. Very excited to be speaking with Amanda Marsalis about The Pitt. How are you, Amanda?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. What kind of TV did you grow up watching?
Ooh, good question. We had strict TV rules. I would say, I mean, when I was young, I was like cartoons. I had limited access to cartoons. And but then ER was not a show that I watched somewhat of. I was like a punk teenager, so I really was rebellious from a very young age and sort of watched a lot of like indie art house films when I was young. I got into TV later.
So, would you say that your work on The Pitt is more even though a lot of people are like, oh, it's like ER, more influenced by those kind of art house film?
It's more influenced by like John Cassavetes, like that sort of side of the world, I would say.
I do think that The Pitt has become this incredible phenomenon. People are just so into it, but it really doesn't feel in a lot of ways like today's TV.
It really is like a sort of beautiful blend of classic television with, I would say, like a modern appetite, right? So there is, and I even like, I went to put a show on, I went to put The Last of Us on last night, and I kind of couldn't handle the stress of it. Like, and I love The Last of Us. And I was just a little like, this is a little much for me right now. And I know The Pit is stressful, but it has a different sort of the way that it's palatable or comforting. I've heard people call it competency porn. Like, we're just so happy to watch people who care and are good at what they do. And there's something so beautiful about that. And I feel like that's what people are drawn to because I know I'm drawn to it, you know?
I know you directed four of the 15 episodes, and I'm curious how you approach something like that because obviously, you have other people who are bringing their own voices and perspectives in, but also audiences who are just going to sort of go through it real quickly too.
Well, I felt very lucky having directed episode two. In episode two, we're still establishing the language of the film, the visual language, right, of the show. And then, of course, and everyone's still finding themselves. And it was really wonderful to be, because then I did four as well. So it's like really there at the sort of the foundational level of like who all of our characters are and how we're going to show, them represent themselves on screen. And it was, and then also, my episodes, I got some hard episodes, like just emotionally, you know, like Spencer dying, a little girl drowning, and then the mass shooting. Like I truly looked at Scott and was like, because I knew from the beginning, like you're gonna do 2, 4, 8, and 12. And when I got the scripts, I was like, Scott, this is brutal.
I feel like 12 has been the focus of a lot of conversation. That's also because we see so much about in our real lives about mass shootings, and you worry, I think, that an episode like this could be sort of exploitative and very triggering. But we're not. We're seeing the aftermath. We're seeing the people who are just in a different mode, who are coming together, and it's really not what I expected at all.
It's really I'm very honored to have been able to direct that episode, right? And to be able to be part of telling that story. And there was a lot of technical work that went into the preparation of that episode and how we were going to move, all of those people that come through. I think in episode 12, we had something like 50 something patients enter, maybe a little bit more. And they all have numbers. And in our prep, we are like, this is patient two is going to land here, patient five is going to land here, then they're going to move here, then they're going to go here, and then but there was a lot of technical prep that went into then how are we going to feel about this, and how do our patients need to feel, how do our doctors need to feel, how do we as an audience need to feel. And so it's a very I always think of like directing as very math and art, and this episode is very much the combination of like science and art, like getting all of it technically right, making sure we're telling the story, and then also making sure that we care, that it just doesn't turn into like gore.
Also feels like you need to have the skills of like host or hostess at a very busy restaurant to be able to manage each thing, and especially going from 248 to then 12, where 12 is just like you just don't have really space to breathe. That every space is being used for something. You need to know where everyone is at all the times.
Yeah, it was intense.
Is that an experience that you cherished and you feel like you would want to take on that kind of challenge again, or you appreciate having a little bit more flexibility
I
with
mean,
movements?
I love and miss everybody from that show. I mean, Noah, I'm a super fan. He is a really wonderful. When we talk about actors, the Pit was sort of a company of actors in that way. Like John comes from theater, and it's really like we all came together as like a troupe in that way. And so you're there with everybody every day. And Noah really did an amazing job at setting the tone. Like I show up to work very early, and he always was there 5 minutes after me on set, like reading our scripts, being prepared, being centered. He had a lot of heavy lifting every single day, and it was like beautiful to watch. Uh, and I miss it. I like being around people that are good at their jobs.
How much do you feel like you need to know about medicine and like what they're saying
Mm,
or
well,
do?
one is we had such great doctors and nurses around all the time. I knew they were never going to let me fuck up, right? They would just look at me and be like, that's not right. They're saying it wrong, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, ooh, we got to fix something. But also, like, I was at the grocery store one day in the middle of making an episode, and I was overhearing this man who was dressed in street clothes having a conversation about a pigtail, something, blah, blah, blah. And I just started following him because I was like, oh, he's having a medical conversation, and I can tell what he's talking about, you know? So that was, I mean, towards the end of the season, I swear, I was like, I bet I could do stitches. Like, I bet.
I've had similar
Um,
conversations with the cast of St. Dennis Medical, which obviously is a very different end of this thing, but the same idea of like, spending a lot of time simulating a lot of medical stuff that's supposed to be, I guess, not really the center of what we're watching, right? We're not watching it to see what they're doing. We're seeing it to see who these people are, and this is just the setting in which they happen to work.
it's true. It's totally true. But there's really a lot of, you know, important mm, lessons is a bad word because that feels like it's like there's just a lot of learning to be done. It was just really interesting. The stories that Scott and John and Noah and all of the writers decided to tell about our current medical system that it doesn't, I mean, we all love the Pit, right? Like we love it. We love them. We love those characters. And so they managed to sort of communicate to us really painful and difficult things in a way that like we can all take in and hear.
And there's obviously no ticking clock like on 24, but the idea is it's supposed to be, a real hour of time. You feel that just in the way you're working, especially compared to other shows, that there's just that much content being put into every single hour.
Well, yeah, and we very methodically plan every episode. So it's like, okay, today we're filming this scene, but right before this doctor had been in that room, and then the next place they're going to go is over there, and so that technically should happen in the background of our scene. So that actor needs to be in the background of our scene crossing, right? So we really completely and totally real time planned everybody, and that would happen. I mean, sometimes you never catch it on camera, but every single actor showed up every single day, and sometimes they were background, basically. And that was kind of like what we all signed up for.
I know that season two has been recently announced, and when it, is like what you said, do you have a sense of your participation in that or what you would like to do?
I do know. And I'm very happy. I mean, I'm very happy to be part of Pitt. It's a wonderful experience. I really love those guys.
Great. I was looking back at some of the other shows you've directed, and it's a really interesting collection, Class of '09, Kindred, Ozark, and of course, a little bit of Westworld as well. And I know you have another show coming up, which feels like it is Ransom Canyon, that I don't think has a lot in common with the Pit. Maybe I'm
It
wrong
has
from what I'm.
zero. It is like opposite ends of the spectrum. It's totally different. Ransom Canyon is like I kind of joke like, do you like Yellowstone but aren't into murder? Then like Ransom Canyon's for you. Ransom is like beautiful and sexy and aspirational and fun and like it's really fun. I mean, I do think people are gonna love the show. It's Minka Kelly's fucking amazing. Excuse my French.
Well, when you're not behind the camera, what do you like watching on TV?
Um, hmm. What I mean, ooh, I just watched Dying for Sex. I loved it. I thought it was so good. Um, I really, really love baseball. Dodgers, you know. I like everything. I mean, I'm not really doing this job has not turned me off of enjoying television, you know.
Great. Well, with Ransom Canyon coming out all at once and the pit still a decent ways away, do you have other things you're working on in the meantime?
I do, but I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Fair
I've
enough.
been told not to talk about it. You'll know soon though.
Okay. Well, it's such a pleasure getting to talk to you. I'm glad that you really appreciate this project so much and looking forward to the world seeing the very different Ransom Canyon and more of the pit.
Thank you. I really appreciate talking to you.